Last minute scrambles downstairs with registration. Microphones?
He's sitting on it.
There we go. Let's start. Bob and I have been.
You're gonna eat it.
We've been responding to some competition classification questions downstairs. With the number there and the diversity, it's been interesting. And then people have been after me to get them registered for more hotel rooms. And it's just, doggone it, just drives us nuts. But anyway, here we are for GSL. We want to talk a bit about the history. Let me tell you a bit about my personal experience with it. We've got a video here from years ago, and then Bob, of course, can add his perspective. He's been with the show since the early 80s, as I recall. In about 1978 or 79, when I started to work for Scale Auto, I made friends with Tim Boyd. That was a wonderful experience, and he told me some experiences that came out of some, not all, of the NPC city contests and how builders were treated badly. Some of the contests were judged in smelly men's restrooms, put the models up on the countertops, how there was sometimes backbiting, and how some people were courteous and would share their techniques and their experiences with other builders. And that all seemed just to be foolish to me. I mean, if we're after building good models, then you have to respect those who build them. So I started, a friend of mine, Gary Wright, and I started a contest in Salt Lake City in 1979, which was a response to the fact the local car club, model car club, didn't put one on. And I thought, well, this is silly, I'll go do it myself. And so Gary and I got together and put together a contest. We called it the Greater Salt Lake Contest because it appealed also to southern Idaho. We had maybe 9 or 10 people come down, and I thought at the time, we had our trophies up the front, but let's have a dinner. Let's everyone sit down. There's a civilizing influence about eating food and not throwing it. So I thought this would be a good thing to do. We did. Somehow Tim got a hold of the ideas, and we floated them around a bit at Scale Auto. And the next year we held it at the Sandman Motel in Sandy, Utah, this sultry little residential kind of motel, not a hotel. And then we held it, the year after that, we held it up at the Whitmore Library, and it just grew exponentially from there. But it was always governed by the ideas that we ought to create a venue where certain building styles were not favored. The thing that mattered was competence, craftsmanship, personalities didn't matter. The style of building certainly had no bearing on the quality of the work. And the show just kind of started to grow. Gary Schmidt at Scale Auto allowed me to submit a couple of articles on the contest, and the word got out, and you know how all that works. It kind of ballooned and grew from there. We jumped between, this is our 7th hotel. Since that time we keep outgrowing the other ones. And we've hosted a lot of people here, and you know the magnitude of this show, our finale about this show. I've been questioned about it, maybe Bob also has heard questions. But the reason we've called a halt to it is that frankly, those of us who have been administering it are not as young as we once were. And we are concerned that the simple, incredible workload of presenting the show as it gets bigger and gains status and reputation was too much for us. We couldn't get the right people involved, and the work simply outstripped us. I had the view, as Bob did, that if we're going to close GSL down, let's go out on top rather than as we slide into the basement. As the poet said, it's better to go out with a bang than a whimper. And for that reason, we decided to close the show this year. In the process of doing that, of course, the word got out, and look at this room, look at the competition room downstairs. We've assembled, my wife, Janet, who's been so central to this whole effort, has assembled just a tiny part of the artifacts of GSL that are held down in the museum. Held down in the museum. And one of the things she found was a video that Mark Benton assembled from scraps of VHS. It's a good 15 years ago, this thing was assembled and not contemporaneous. Dave Hadley, our videographer, has worked his magic and would like to show you parts of this. This is a video from 2008, I think. And is that what it says on it?
It doesn't give me a title.
Okay. It's of the very early days of GSL. Watch for people. Now, is this the start?
Yeah.
Watch for, this is amateurish at best, but watch for some of the people who were here. We've interviewed Ed Roth, we've interviewed Bud the Cat Anderson, 2001. There you go. Just enjoy this. That's the best of show winner, Dave Baird's car from the first one. That's my Corvette. After this, I bowed out of competition because Tim Boyd took me aside and said, "Mark, you're an idiot. You cannot compete in the show that you sponsor." So I bailed out. And he was right about that. These are other best of shows. Dave Barry, I think, is in the room, or he's certainly been here. And the quality, of course, just got better and better. Bob Barnett passed years ago. We have sound with this? Really?
Yeah.
We did, okay. You can tell this is not, from this angle, I think that's Gary Schmidt, but I'm not sure. Images are distorted from this angle.
Get it back here.
But we had, this contest would not have existed without Scale Auto and Gary Schmidt's support. Certainly he provided the avenue for publications and for publicity, and he carried ads for us at discounted rates and so forth. We would not be here without Gary Schmidt. Jan, is that Bob Barnett? That is Bob Barnett. The GSL Best of Show number 4, I believe. Dave, you have a way of speeding this up a bit.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you, let's jump between images here.
Oh.
Terry Jesse. Yours truly. Look who that is.
Wow.
I interviewed him and Scale Auto carried most of the interview.
Wow.
And he presented the awards that year. He was an interesting character, to say the least. As I was not. I've not always been white-haired. Bud the Cat Anderson. When we were at the hotel downtown, I interviewed him with Jim Keeler, and we've got it all on a much better VHS tape that's uploaded right now to the web. Boy, he was opinionated, I'll tell you, and mostly right. See that car there in the foreground? Revell Packard #1 top national championship, Richard Mike Johnson. The museum now, upon his death, now owns that model, including that bubble top display case. He told us the model was repainted because when he sent it back to Revell, they packed it so badly it was really terribly damaged. And he had to blow a new bubble for it and repair it, and that's why it differs in some detail from the original in the magazines. This, I think, is by John McGowan, if my memory serves. Yeah. Look at the year up on top, guys. Look how small the number of people are at the airport Hilton. It wasn't the airport Hilton, GSL number 10, that Terry Jesse and Andy Callan. They both came in dressed as policemen. One was, Terry Jesse, came as cops, full regalia, sidearms, rushed in the back of the room to roast me. There were 3 guys on the left side of the room that saw the cops come in, bolted for the door, and we never saw them again. We've got video of that uploaded. It's astonishing to see these people that just ran out. Literally, I watched it. They ran out the door.
That one was Mike Carroll.
Mike Carroll, I'm sorry. Was it Mike Carroll and Mary Jesse? That's right. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. There's Moose Callan. Are these at the airport, Hilton Janet? I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, we had a blindfold building contest where you would hand kits out to people when they were blindfolded and expect them to build it. We provided glue and paint. And then some people would substitute parts between kits. And it was quite funny and outrageous, but when someone got paint in their eye, I think we called it to a halt at that point. See the pick up the parts off the floor, you see that? It's nuts.
And how much was the cash grand prize for that, Mark?
I think they paid us.
You got to keep what you built.
Right. That's funny.
Maybe speed up here a little bit through this.
There's people that don't like that today.
I thought that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, how else do you do this?
It's just for the glue and.
Should have both a lot of time in there.
Yes, you did.
Were they all the same model, Mark?
No. No, I went to a hobby store and asked for donations.
Does it matter?
We took whatever they gave us.
No.
It doesn't matter. That guy's got an advantage, he's wearing glasses.
They were good through blindfold. If he was smart, he'd have put them on the outside of his glasses and he could look down.
Yeah.
And it's smart, like once asked us where our nippers were so you could cut the screws.
Right.
I remember that just now. We had no such tool for him.
That would be fun.
Maybe speed it up here a bit, Dave.
We're about done with this one.
That's
This is the
funny.
very end of this video.
That's funny.
Haven't changed it since. We're working in the
There are
yard
two.
now.
I think there's another video, but I don't think I brought it, gave it to Dave.
That's funny.
Oh, maybe I did.
Oh my God.
Thank God they didn't have
It seemed like a good counterweight to the competition in the contest hall.
Grumkey.
You know, you guys know who built that?
Grumkey,
Yeah.
he beat me.
That's in the museum's permanent collection now. It's held up beautifully.
It's actually the second one was in the museum. He rebuilt it on the property.
You can see the advent of Bob Wick's art there. Now there is Augie Escano's adult tie for the second Rebel contest. That's the bubble award that Rebel gave out, and he donated the entire thing to us. The model needed to be modestly cleaned, so I cleaned it with a Q-tip, and you would be surprised the wheels were turned and then nickel plated. The steering actually worked, reciprocating balls reciprocating work. It's an extraordinary piece. It has seldom been matched since that was built in '63, I believe. And that's down at the museum, some of the display cases. And some locals made fun of me one day. I don't know why this is even in here, but when they published the article in Mercari, they put this together one afternoon and took me to dinner. Maybe not that version, but the other one. It shouldn't be in here. Yeah, you can see that.
Can't tell them apart.
I know. That was their point, of course.
Just gotta wave them.
This is also won the first place at Nationals. It's
Yep.
95.
Look who that is. This was at the Radisson Hotel, I believe. And we used to have something called the GSL Plastic Players that lasted for 10 or 12 years. We almost got sued by testers for one of them because we made fun of their paint products. The best one was probably called Who Won First instead of Who's On First. And that was outrageous. We can't find a video of it. We're looking for it right now. If so, we'll upload it to the web. Terribly funny.
Is that the one where you dropped the model?
No, that was a later one. Smart eye. That was a.
Moose.
That's Moose on the left. The poor quality of this video was done with on inexpensive VHS with poor
Hold the
camera.
mic up.
Done with originally shot on marginal quality VHS with a poor camera. That's the reason it looks so crappy. No, Mike, can you move the head, Dave?
No, it's stuck.
I was holding forth and being pompous.
Steve Catron.
This is the first museum. My office was in North Salt Lake up at the state capitol. And an old home had been converted, and there was a small room of about 76 or 77 square feet that I rented for $50 a month. And that's where we started in 1991 or 2. And so we crammed all these people into the place. We started to gather things at this point. And as you can see, there was scarcely room. I probably had a couple of hundred items at this point. And we quickly, of course, learned that it was not large enough. So I moved my office to downtown Salt Lake, and we rented an apartment in an adjacent building. From there, 20 years ago, we moved to the the Sandy, Utah address. See how tightly we were packed into there. Alan Rabb, an early supporter of the museum, contributed the wall-mounted display cases, which are still in great shape. He was very generous in the early years there. This whole room maybe had 180 square feet, the whole place. It was real small. Now off inside that door in that corner, that's where we put the Oakland Roaster show when we first received it from Ken Hamilton. And it was there we came up with Bob Barnett one night. He was about 4 weeks from his passing. He passed of pancreatic cancer. And we put his name on top of the Oakland Roaster diagram. We brought it back, he had never seen it. And so a nurse came up with him, we brought him up in a car and let him see this. And it was very emotional, as you might imagine. There's Augie. The award, we have GSL's award called the Augie. It's a private award. It's presented to the best example of machine work. Because Augie was certainly a pioneer of that. He would present seminars, didn't he, Bob, for a number of years about machining?
Who's the guy with the hair?
That was a former version.
Guys know who that is? Yeah, Bob Johnson, Ravel. Came out to present the award, and he was lecturing us about the realities of kit production. Remember this? What do you think that is behind it? Yeah, that's Norm Weber. That was driven across country by Ken Hamilton and another fellow whose name I sadly forget. Somebody bought a brand new Ford Econoline and brought it out, packed it up. That damage on the way back, they drove it back wherever they were from, and the truck was stolen. So they had to hitch ride it back, however they got back there. But we had presented this GSL. I think that's Ken on the right side there. I think Bob, did you go over to Oakland and do the research for the building? The dimensions?
No, actually. I will call it up, or I know exact photographs and stuff, but that was.
Bob spearheaded, he's too modest, he spearheaded the research to gather data on this. This is an exact scale of one of the World War II barracks, or Quonset huts, whatever you call them. Ken Hamilton then built the whole thing, we raised the money for him, he built the whole thing from scratch. The rivets were simulated by little drops of glue out of a syringe. There are 11,200 simulated rivets, by his count, not mine, I'm happy to tell you. And then we reached out to builders from Australia, there was several from Canada, the rest of the United States, of specific cars. It was meant to replicate generically the 1964 Oakland show. It has color wheels. If for those of you who go on the tour on Saturday, you see color wheels and overhead lights, and 1/25th scale, 1/25th scale model car contest that they had. What's magical is to turn the lights off in the room and pull down one of the side hatches and look inside with the lights on. You'd swear you were there. That's how good Ken's work was. Oh, here we're going upstairs in the old place. And how we got the people in there.
You were claustrophobic, you didn't go up there.
Pretty much. Sometime prior to this, Jim Keeter came to me, and ex-Ravel, and he started to sell off bits and pieces of his personal collection as well as memorabilia he'd gathered from Ravel and so forth. And to the chagrin of my wife Janet, I started buying it. And that's where we got the Dodge Fever models, that's where we got a lot of other stuff, vast documents from Ravel, vast numbers of documents, artifacts, internal memoranda, parts, more plastic players it seems. We have the text for most of these, and the circumstances permit later this year, we'll upload these separate videos, and we'll give you the text, or at least the theme of it. We had one year, Norm Weber played it with Ken Hamilton. It was called The Great Model Karnak. And that's where we got in trouble with Ravel, because I wrote the script that year and I was after Ravel. And I got nasty letters from their attorneys. Great. Accusing me of commercial slander. This is the airport Hilton. Oh, this was how to get through the then new screening processes and what this airport. You remember that they used to examine packages, and in this one, the false government agents opened up boxes and stomped on the models, and it was a little over the top, but very funny.
Basic idea was getting modeling supplies to come to GSL onto the airplane, and the modeler couldn't pass through the checkpoint, but all kinds of other people did. So that was the gist of that.
That's right. This was quite a find. This was shown at, parts of this was shown at GSL probably 13, 15 years ago. And I think Janet just recently refound these CDs out of the museum. A must-see collection of other things. Maybe we can speed this a little bit, babe. They'd always pay me for a pompous delivery fee. This is when we started to present images of the model during the awards presentation. Oh, it's not me, thank God. Oh, I remember this. Guys, who was here when Tom Kern brought his Duesenbergs? Remember that?
They're beautiful.
Beautiful doesn't describe it. Let me tell you something about Tom Kern. He was in the 70s then, scratch built this from a neighbor's car, completely scratch built. He had a separate frame. There were some people very, very upset that we were casual with the models. So he gave me a complete frame, no body, no wheels, just the frame, the engine in it. And he said, why don't you walk this over to the table and let it swing in your front fingers? So I put my fingers at his direction under the front axle and swung this thing gently. And I thought a couple of guys were going to actually either assault me or die on the spot. And it seemed just very careful. It was just too funny. But that was Tom Kern. And this is, yeah, who just wrote this? Oh, the ex-designer for Chrysler. Dave Cummins is his name. And this is, which kid over here? This is President Rebel's wife. And I've struggled to remember her name, but she came out at GSL 15, we were at Holiday Inn, and talked about the hobby, and so we gave her a special award. Her husband started Rebel. We were showing up models now that have been donated to the museum. There's some GSLs.
We keep getting older in these videos.
Oh yeah.
Weird how that works.
Yeah. GSL was
Should have showed it in
contributed.
reverse.
Yeah.
It's the sole cause of it. number.
That was another plastic players.
Yes.
Skip.
We'll have to find the script for the Muller Karnak. It is absolutely outrageous. And I'll reveal the letters I got from Tester too. Well, we could go on here. We have other things to present, but David, you could call this a halt at this point. I've talked to Dale Angel, who's the PBS train producer, and he's going to take other videos we have flyers and send to splice them together with this, digitally improve the quality, and hopefully produce a video of the history of GSL. There's a lot here we have that you just haven't seen. This was quite amateurish and put together the last minute, but with good heart. It's just crappy input. So all that will be announced in the future. Steve Rollier has created through MailChimp a mailing list, an email list of about 1,000 people. And it's to those people that we send out notes about GSL and the museum and so forth. Everyone on that list, and you're all on that list now that you've signed up, will get notices of when all this stuff is available to either go see or in some cases purchase for a reasonable price, where the monies all go to the museum. Well, why don't you talk about some of your recollections, then we'll go through some artifacts here.
If this is the last show, are you gonna continue a website presence and keep
Through
that
the
active?
museum. Through the museum.
Through the
But the
museum?
GSL site will, the GSL site will always be there, but it'll now be a source of history rather than, of course, of ongoing contest.
Okay.
I will, I guess, tell you how I got involved in this. I think it was '86. A gentleman named Fred Yokel was a friend of mine. He lives in Campbell, which is near San Jose. I live north of San Francisco, and we met at met at I think at an NNL in the South Bay, and both had always wanted to come to GSL because we'd seen it in the magazine and all of that, and decided to drive up. So we did that again. I think it was in '86, and I met Gary Schmidt and the people putting on GSL, and just kind of as an aside, and it led to the artwork for the contest. But I said to Gary, would you like a sketch pad done for Scale Auto based on models? So we did, I don't know how many I did, 5 or 6 maybe more. The idea was actually to get other people to take over the sketchpad and to submit their designs to Scale Auto. And I just wanted to get it started and then let everybody that was interested in doing drawings of customized or modified vehicles to kind of take it over. So that's the direction that went. But it also led to my involvement in doing the illustration and the graphics for the event. And just kind of as an aside, if you have been around and watching all of this stuff and the changes, we got to the point where the first one was on the screen, and it was just kind of a generic thing. It had, it was a simple continuous line drawing, but it has a motorcycle, a T-bucket, a fire truck, a race car, custom, that sort of thing. Because I didn't really have a sense of what this was or was going to be as time went on. And then we developed some traditions with that. We had, at one point, we began doing a common kit. So that was incorporated into the logo for that coming event. The winner of Best of Show from the previous show was honored by being added to the new show's artwork. And then, I can't remember what the other, if I had designed it, that was where the Camaro station wagon, sports wagon started. Anyway, so there have been a number of traditions that have kind of been carried forward without much fanfare, but it was in honor of people who have participated and how the show has evolved over the years. So that's a little bit of history on that. I've been coming back every year since then, or every event since then. I'm not sure when I started judging, maybe 3 or 4 years after our first, mid to late 80s, okay. So anyhow, and I've been coming back, and then of course the involvement grows from there, and you know, that's it. It's always been a really fun event to go to, obviously, as those of you who've been here before know. You meet great people, learn amazing things, you see talent, and you see the results of that talent that you wouldn't see in a concentrated situation like this normally. It's one of the things that I liked about school, especially when I was in college. You know, you'd have an assignment and you might have 20 or 30 people in the class. So you've got 20 or 30 people looking at the same assignment, same problem, same project, differently. And so they bring them in, and you've got half a dozen that are mediocre, you've got a few that are not very good at all, and you've got some that are absolutely brilliant. And those are the ones you learn from. And that's what I see here. It's the caliber and the level of the people that build for GSL and bring the stuff in that inspires everybody. And everybody who's here has been inspired by something they've seen in a previous event that they've been to. Again, we talked about this earlier in an earlier seminar in the welcome. But, you know, asking, how did you do that? Or telling somebody how you did it if they ask you. Those are the things that make this really special. And that's part of what's been incorporated into this. And we really do have a legacy of excellence. That's, excuse me, that's what this has always striven for. And that was incorporated kind of as a slogan a while back. But it was important to stress the fact that excellence really is what this is all about. Whatever style you build, whatever medium you use, whatever your interests are, it may be something as simple as building just engines. There's a category, there's a class for that. So this really covers a huge amount of stuff within a hobby. And again, it's the highest caliber of people who are here, not only competing, but also to learn. So, and you know, again, over the years, we've had stuff like the plastic players. As this has grown, it's become more and more complex, and some of the stuff's dropped out because we just don't have time to do all of that anymore. But we've had great seminar speakers, we've had great guests, as Mark pointed out, and again, great competitors and people who just attend because they enjoy looking at what's here. So I have very, very fond memories of all of this. And that's basically it at this point. I'm sorry to see it end, but the reality is we're all getting old. I mean, if you put on a contest, you know what's involved in it. If you haven't, and it goes smoothly, it looks really easy. It is not. And at some point, in fact, at 15, we had decided, and kind of at my urging, I just said, Mark, you know, this is getting to be too much. Well,
When it was presented every year.
yeah, it had been held every year, and so the compromise was, well, let's do it every 2 years. What happened was, with the announcement of the end at 15, the outpouring, the response was, you can't end this, you can't stop now, but we couldn't do it every year. So the compromise was to do it every 2 years. So that has run for that duration. COVID again shut it down for 4 years, and obviously gave a lot of people time to build better models and more of them. But that's where it's gotten to. But we, you know, you just get worn out, and that's really certainly my situation. And I think it's tough for Mark. It'd be great to be able to go on and on and on and on and on, but it ain't going to happen. So I'm very, very pleased with what we've accomplished and what we've done and what you people have done. So those are basically my memories and my perspective on GSL.
I can tell you it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to work with Bob. When we brought him on board, so to speak, actually joined us and added a quality and a perspective to the show that frankly I could bring to it. I think I brought my own perspective, but the quality of the show went up exponentially. As you can see from the art, we'll have this, invite you all to come sign his art for this year. These are simple printouts of the art that are mounted. But the amalgamation, the gathering of people we've had to do tasks and services, the media we've attracted and so forth has been a tribute, I think, not to us, but to you. Your participation, your dedication, the fact you spend a lot of money to get here. Salt Lake is not exactly a high traffic area, and we're out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like you came to us, and it's been very pleasurable to do that. Now, I want to show you some more things. My wife was involved in something at GSL, or GSL 6. You'll never believe this, but this is the original document. Never believe this is the original document. There's a GSL cookbook. This is the original script. We're going to publish that and have it as a download. You can go make your meatballs or spaghetti or whatever the devil you have.
Not how to cook plastic?
No. This is from 1981. It's a single promotional sheet we had for GSL. Whose car is that in the upper left-hand corner? That's that front-wheel drive Mercury I did for Scale Auto. I had no other images. Then we did an early single sheet for the GSL stationery. You've seen the GSL 10 art that Bob did. The 9th annual, we used to publish booklets with Fred Yokel's help. In fact, I remember Bob and I sitting in his home many times working on this, and we would write the draft to see how thin it is. We would write the rules, and these would be mailed out. We'd go to a printer in Salt Lake and print them, and we would have to address, there were no label programs in those days, at least none that we could find. So my poor beleaguered wife would type the envelopes, and these things would go out in the mail. Here's one from 1999. They grew in size, and eventually, when it became prohibitive, we simply ceased doing that about a decade or more ago and went to the internet, where we have a website with all the information on it. But there are all sorts of artifacts here that we are going to upload, things that Janet has saved for us. Here's from 1999. I think it's about this is about the last one we published before we went online. Bob had established the colors of gray with burgundy printing. If I'd done it, it would not have looked nearly as good.
That's the reunion, which is one that came back after.
After we supposedly stopped after 15, we had a reunion, which was well attended. And here's the small pamphlet we handed out for that. We've kept samples, Janet has kept samples of all this for history. Now, the other thing is, I think it's been interesting about what we've done is we have also, we have endeavored from time to, in fact, I think only once, to do a book about championship building. A number of years ago, Bob, let's see what date is on this. In criminy, it's about 10 years ago. Bob and I wrote this tome, which we made available over the internet as a downloadable link. Went to a couple of the magazines, and one of them, I won't tell you the name, refused to carry the link because they thought this was competitive to them. That's a true story. I've got the email memo on it. It wouldn't even put the link in. The book was free, and here it is. We're going to offer these online because we can't do hard copies, but we can do spiral downloads. It's pretty interesting. Then we would do things like, then I wrote this GSL book about the first 16 years up to the reunion. I hope to do this again if my wife doesn't throw me out of the house as I tried to do it. These are going to be available too. It used to be hardcover, but that process is a crimping process. That technology's gone away, so we would offer this just as a spiral bound, but it's authentic with full color. There are.
I don't want to interrupt, but there are a couple of things. The reason that we wrote the book on how to build better modeling, or better models, or how to build championship scale vehicles, came out of people saying, well, what does it take to win? What is it you're looking for? How do you judge? And how do you do those things? How do you build to that level? So it was those things that led to some of these publications and also the seminars that have been presented here. There was something else, I can't remember what it was. But a lot of what has been done as a result of what GSL has accomplished and what people have taken from it and what they wanted to know more about. So it's, I don't want to say public service, but it really is aimed at and generated from what people wanted to know about GSL and about building high caliber models. So even the stuff that we've done is related to that and is a logical carry forward of things. And we published in the handout, how is judging conducted? That's a legitimate question. If you're a competitor, you better know how it's going to be judged if you're going to build to compete. So, as part of what GSL has done, I remember what the other thing was, part of what GSL has done is to try and make it easier to build better, if you will. Now, one of the things, and the rules for the classes have evolved over the years, always because of challenges. And we apparently did a good enough job that other events have taken the rules verbatim and used them for their contests. Now, that's not really the way it's supposed to be done, but apparently whatever we did worked well enough that it's carried forward to other events. So that was what I wanted to say.
You'll notice in the handbook we publish every year for now, I think 11 years, there's a section called How Judging is Done. And it evolves every year as we refine ourselves and hopefully get better at it. But this has always been disclosed in the handbook. You each have a handbook when you register downstairs. Also, in terms of the archives now, I have a client who is very, very generous with us. And as each GSL has rolled along, I've sent a note to his assistant, and we have downloaded the entire content of that year's website onto one of these. So while we don't have it electronically, we have a hardcover printout. This includes pictures of the winners and key events and persons and so forth. So we have attempted, not as well as we might have, to memorialize this, and it'll all be uploaded eventually. Now, one more thing as we end here. Down the far end of this table, it was Bob's great idea years ago to do stickers when they were affordable. And available. And available. They were not this year. We actually do run by budgets here. There are hundreds of these. They are free to you. Come up. Do not come up and grab a whole roll. Okay? Some of you might do that. Please do not. But take 10 or 15, take 20, take them with you. We have them covering a number of years, and they are authentic. They are the one. When Bob tells me when you go to a company, you print these. If you need 2,000, they print 5. Numbers in, I'll be right. You get the point. When they turn the press on, they can't turn it off, and you just keep running stickers. So we have all of these left over. So you are certainly welcome to take some of each, okay? And feel free to do so. Now, about the future. There have been rumors, they seem to come my way, that we have somehow endorsed or will license any of the documents, the theories, the brands, the copyrights and so forth to any other event. The answer to that is no. We will not tolerate anything. I've copyrighted this stuff. We've copyrighted trade names, trade dress, copyrighted words and images and everything else. We will protect the copyright. Not saying it's not aimed at you, but it's aimed at those people out there, and there are some opportunists who want to glom onto this and seek to portray themselves as the natural and anointed successors of GSL. There are no such successors. This is a freestanding event, and we will protect the copyright. Not that you need to know that, but if you happen to hear it, tell them I'm an attorney, and I know how to copyright things, and I'll go after them. Because this is a freestanding, important event that existed on its own merits. I'm not trying to be a pompous jerk here, but those of us who have worked so hard on this, we're going to preserve the integrity and the identity and the isolated greatness that we've managed to achieve because of people like you. So, again, I don't want to be arrogant about this, but I have heard these rumors fairly recently, and I thought it was important to get the word out. It just won't be tolerated. So, please.
Can you mention the GSL?
Under the, yes, of course you can make mention of it, but you can't do is copyright. You can use under the fair use exception, you can use quotations as long as they're cited. You can certainly, you can't use logos, you can't use text. But any publisher like a magazine or elsewhere can of course make references to it all day long. That's great, in fact we want that. I'm talking about companies and people who want to take over the event and portray themselves as successors.
This is the new GSL, or this is the official continuation of GSL.
We're the designees of the GSL trustees. There aren't any.
So you guys said, like, in the style or presence of GSL, we are continuing, we're doing our show.
They will get a letter from me. Again, I'm not trying to be pushy and arrogant about that, but it just won't be tolerated.
And as with saying that all of you learn from the other people who are at the shows and the events, and you teach as well, we don't expect this to end in a vacuum. It's fine if people take the concept or the approach, but present it as their own work. Don't take our rules and claim those are the rules for your event. Same classes, fine. Write your own rules within those classes. It's that type of thing that really needs to be protected. And the other thing is that other contests don't have everything that we have that to offer or is involved. They may not have as many classes or whatever. So whatever they do has to be tailored to their event anyway. So that's really what it comes down to. If somebody's got an event and they go, I like the way they did that, or I like the style that it was, not artistic style, but the seminars and the events and the way that it's set up and run or whatever, all of that's fine, but it is not GSL, and it cannot claim to be GSL or the continuation of GSL, and it can't be a direct lift of everything that we have developed. That's a corporate brand, if you will.
Or even substantial portions of our text. I mean, citations are okay in the fair use exception. They're just fine. Go for it. Give citations, give credit, and don't claim it as your own. And we're fine. But the rumors I've heard, I'm gonna tell you, you'd be surprised. There are a couple of vultures out there. That's all I can call them. And not gonna happen. Again, I'm not trying to posture here, but we've worked hard for this since 1979, and we're gonna defend it. Because I think it exists as it should on its own merits. We've had our problems, we've had our successes, but they're ours.
Any
So,
thought of doing virtual shows after this?
no. Well, no. I'm tired. Anyway, that's it for now. We have a museum seminar coming up. Please come up and make free use of it.